Hello bullet journal friends, it's Erin, welcome back. If you'd like to plan with me for February 2022, it's time to grab your notebook. Let's go on a bullet journaling adventure. I'm taking the inspiration for my February 2022 bullet journal setup from the Lunar New Year. In case you didn't know, 2022 is the year of the tiger, which is a bit of a special one for this crazy cat lady, and also my partner is a tiger, so it's nice in so many ways. I feel like my doodling skills have progressed in the past year, but not to the point where I could just draw a tiger unassisted. So I have found a little workaround. I've jumped onto Canva and found this beautiful tiger illustration. So I have printed my little tiger out on some A4, just regular printer paper. I'm coloring in the back with a regular lead pencil, and then I'm just using some washi tape that I'm sticking to my hand a few times first to remove some of the stickiness. I'm just using the washi tape to hold my tiger down on the page in the position where I want it, and then I'm using a ballpoint pen because it has a nice firm, pointy, defined tip to draw over all of the tiger's lines, which is then going to transfer an imprint of that pencil onto my page, so I have this really faint outline of the illustration down on my page, which I can then trace over with my fine liner, and we can pretend that I have the skills to draw a tiger. I would dearly love to credit the artist who designed this tiger, but unfortunately Canva don't give you that information, so if anybody knows, please do let me know because it's incredible and gorgeous. I'm using the Sharpie pen because it is a very nice, color-fast kind of indelible pen. And then just opposite the tiger, I'm going to add my February heading, just a really nice, minimal, fine liner February heading. The lucky element in this instance is water, so I'm going to be using some watercolor in my journal as well to represent that aspect. And for my color scheme, I've chosen something a little unusual for me. I don't usually go for yellow, but I'm going to. I really favor a minimalistic setup style overall in my bullet journals, and this is still going to be a fairly minimalistic setup, but as soon as you start factoring in watercolor, things are going to take a little bit longer, so do keep that in mind. If watercolor is not your jam, you could absolutely make something very similar with markers that would take a lot less time. I have this really cheap dollar store Montmartre paint set, and I'm just using the two yellow colors from that. One is an ochre yellow and the other is more of a bright true yellow. These are not the hard pan kind of watercolors. They come in a little tube, and I don't know if I'd recommend them, to be honest, but I don't do a lot of watercolor, so these work pretty well for me. The trick when using watercolor in your bullet journal is to keep as little water on the brush as possible, which sounds counterintuitive, but it's gonna help your page to hold up against having liquid on it, because most of the time bullet journals aren't really necessarily designed for that. I wanted to keep the colors moving very softly and fluidly through the design, which is why I'm not sticking too closely to the outline of my tiger here. I wanted things to bleed out a little bit around the sides. And then I'm just using these black botanical washi stickers that I picked up recently from Wish. I have a Wish haul video coming very soon, so if you're interested in the kind of bullet journaling stationery that you can get on Wish, which is very affordable, do stick around for that. That'll be coming in the next about a week or so, I think. This is a set of black and gold washi stickers that I purchased myself, not sponsored, and as I turn the page here you can see a little bit of the buckling that the watercolor has left on the page, so sometimes it's hard to see on screen, but yes, the watercolor has changed the way my journal pages look, so if that's something that would bother you, maybe don't use watercolor in your book. The next page is my calendar spread. I have laid this out in pencil first so that I can make sure everything is correct before I commit it to pen. So these boxes are 5 spaces by 5 spaces, and I've just made sure that I have enough rows to cover the entire month of February 2022. Because I'm going very structured and minimalist for this setup, I'm using my ruler. I didn't used to be a ruler girl, but I am very much a ruler girl now. I'm going to use the watercolor along the top of the calendar grid just to bring that watercolor element throughout all of the pages to give this theme a cohesive feel. You absolutely don't need to stick to a particular monthly theme in your bullet journal, but I like the creative aspect of it, and I like seeing how my style changes over time. It's a fun way to push your boundaries a little bit, I think. Now, yellow is an interesting choice for me. I am not really a fan of yellow. I'm also not a very superstitious person, but I enjoy the celebration of Chinese New Year. My partner's from a Chinese family and his mother is very interested in feng shui, so I get to learn a lot about the culture, which is very cool. And in my travels around the internet, my horoscope for the Year of the Tiger, I am a rabbit, so almost it'll be my year next year. I saw that one of the lucky colours listed for me was yellow, and I thought, that sounds good. The other colours were like black and silver and something else. They're a little bit more difficult to incorporate in a watercolour way with what I already have in my collection of stationery, so I thought I'd go for something that was a bit more accessible. If you'd like to see what this layout looks like in use, then do jump onto my Instagram. I am at erinsmith.art. I do like to post kind of mid-month updates over there of how my layouts are working for me. It's very honest, so if I'm not enjoying something, you will know about it on my Instagram. It's a nice little community, so do come and join me there. I would love to have you. I always like my calendars to begin on a Monday, and I also like to position them so that the Thursday to Sunday is on the right page and the Monday to Wednesday is on the left page, which is why I have a little bit more negative space on the left page than I do on the right. I also like my page elements to interact and overlap and sit behind and in front of each other, so I've made sure to layer these stickers just a little bit in front of the boxes. Not covering up too much space so that I can't use the calendar anymore, but covering a little bit, just so that it feels like they're living together in this same space. We're moving on to the next page once again. If you saw my January setup for this year, you will have seen my currently spread, which was such a lovely idea, and I think it will work for a lot of people. Unfortunately, it didn't really work for me. That could just be circumstantial. My January ended up being not quite what I was expecting. I spent quite a bit of it unwell, and then I got my vaccine booster, and then that knocked me out for a couple of days, and I wasn't working as much as usual, and it was nice to take time off, but also I felt a little bit useless. So I'm toning down the currently spread this time. I'm going to bring it back to just one page, and the currently section is actually going to be just the bottom. So rather than having different sections for what I'm reading and what I'm listening to and what I'm watching at the moment, I can just pop all of that stuff into the one section, because honestly, there wasn't that much going on for me. So that will be the very bottom section, the currently. Above that will be my regular goals section, and then above that will be my gratitude log. Once again, masking off some areas to use my watercolor strips. These are going to highlight the headings for these different sections. And then we're going to get into the only illustrative element that I will be using in this design. If you're ever not 100% sold on a particular layout that you've done, just make it a box, put it in a box. It will instantly make the page look more put together and structured. One of my favorite tips. Extra points if that box sits behind or in front of other elements. Now I'm just going to add a few little floral decorations here. So as much as I love the stickers that you saw on the previous couple of pages, they are really big. There is no way I could have incorporated those on a page like this where I need to use quite a bit of the space without taking up more space than I wanted to. So I'm adding these really easy little sketches. I will show you a proper tutorial on how to draw these coming up soon, but I think you can probably pick it up just from watching this super sped up footage. I was going for snapdragons, but potentially they could be any pillory type of flower of your choice. They are just scribbles on a stick with some pointy leaves, little long skinny leaves at the bottom. Watch this space if you'd like to learn a little bit more in depth how to do those. Adding in the numbers for my gratitude log, and then we're going to move on to the next page. This one's going to be my phone and sleep tracker, and I'm just going to refer back to my January setup here because, you know, when a system works for you, keep using it. So I like to have down the left and right side the initial and the number for each day of the month. So, you know, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, as well as 1s and 2s and 3s. And I like that on both sides because as you get onto the far right side of the page, it's really helpful to have that information on both sides rather than just on one. It makes it easier to fill in as you go. I also like to have the numbers that I'm tracking along the top and the bottom of the page. So this smaller left column is my phone tracker. So I have the numbers 1 to 5 there because those are the hours that I will be tracking my phone usage. I do not often get up to 5 hours of phone usage in a day, but I tell you what, I hit it when I was sick. That wider column is my sleep tracker. So rather than quantity of hours, I have times. So from 9 p.m. through to 10 a.m. and then I can rule off on each day with my marker which hours I slept between, which is a little bit tricky if you don't have something that tracks the way that you sleep, but I have a Fitbit that I wear to bed and it tells me my sleeping hours, so I can actually just check that on my phone. Same with the phone tracking, I can check in my digital well-being app the hours that I used my phone every day, and I tell you what, I do alter it. If I was driving to a job and I had maps open on my phone for an hour and a half, I wasn't actually looking at my phone for that whole time, so I will absolutely subtract that hour and a half from my phone screen time amount when it goes into my journal. I think that's fine. Are you ready to learn how to draw these flowers? Here we go, it's time. So you're going to start with a central line in the direction that you'd like your flower to go, and then you're just going to scribble. We'll start with a little loop right on the top of the line, and then just bring the scribble down about 2/3 of the way down the line and make sure that you build it out to be a little bit wider just above the bottom, so kind of a Christmas tree shape. Extra points if you bring it in a little bit again, just below this, like a cotton candy, you know how it gets a bit narrower towards the stick, and then add a couple of just little loops for leaves right at the bottom. They can be pointy or you can make them a little bit rounder like mine. I wanted it all to look very scribbly. And there you go, you've got a little flower of some sort, potentially a snapdragon if you like, I guess. Jumping back in with my watercolors just to bring a little bit of yellow to these flowers at the bottom of my phone and sleep tracker page, making sure that things are fairly consistent, making sure that they all look at home together. And then I'm going to add a little bit more at the top for my heading, not bothering to mask it off with my washi tape this time. I found I was tearing up the paper a little bit. I'm using a notebook from the washi tape shop this year and it is absolutely stunningly beautiful, but I do think the paper quality is not as good as the journals that I was using last year, so that's just interesting to note. If you just stick to markers and keep things minimal, or even stickers and washi tapes, I think it will serve you very well. The washi tape shop Moonbeam journal. I'm just going to add a little bit of colour onto my opposite page flowers as well. I just felt like they needed that to keep things consistent. One thing I'm finding handy when working with damp pages is popping some paper in between when I turn the page just to blot any excess as we go. It also comes in handy to rest your hand on so that you aren't smudging things as you need to access other parts of the page. Moving on again, this next spread is my habit and mood tracker. If you've been around my channel for the past couple of months, you've probably seen this exact layout before. I keep using it because it works really well. If you'd like to find links to any of the supplies that I've used in this video, jump into the description. There is a link to my blog post about this particular setup there, as well as all of my previous setups as well, so you can find whatever it is that you're looking for. The box I've drawn out here is for my habits, and then around that in the negative space, I'm going to add more of those floral illustrations, and for each day of the month, I'm going to colour in those illustrations with a colour that is corresponding to a mood that I assign. Not going to do those in watercolour. There's absolutely no way I'm going to bust out my watercolours and a brush every day just to colour in my mood tracker. So I'm going to do those with markers. I just think that's more reasonable. The habit tracker box has space for every day, so 1 through 28. Starting on a Tuesday because February starts on a Tuesday. And every second space there will be a line for a habit. I haven't filled in the habits yet because February is still 2 weeks away at the time that I'm setting this up, and I'm not 100% sure yet which habits are working and which habits I might maybe want to ditch. You know how you set yourself some goals at the start of a new year and maybe they don't necessarily always work out. And I'm just adding my little smiley faces for reference, turning back to my pen swatch page so I can find some appropriately coloured yellow markers to go here. These are the colours that I'll be using to fill in the mood tracker as we go through the month. And then just a little bit of watercolour at the top of the box here to tie things together. That's where my heading will go for this page. And now it's time to draw 28 of these little flowers. Each one of these also corresponds to a day, so they'll all have a tiny little number next to them so that I know on the 2nd which one to colour in, on the 12th which one to colour in, so on and so forth. I'm going to speed this up to absolute hyperspeed because this is quite repetitive. Just making sure that I vary the angles of the stems and the sizes of the flowers so that things don't look too uniform across the page. I still want it to be quite scribbly and organic. For now, it looks like a fairly boring page, but once it's all filled in, this one will be very cute. And we've got one last spread to focus on here, and that's my weekly. I've counted in a little bit of negative space to go on the outside of each of these pages, and one more time I'm going to mask that off and get in there with my watercolour. In January, I used a different kind of weekly where each day had its own space, and I used to really like that kind of weekly, but I've really moved towards a rolling task list or a running to-do list, which is the same thing, just two different names for the same concept, where you just have one list of tasks that gets you through the whole week. I work from home. I've worked for myself for a decade now, so I don't have a great deal of structure in my life, so this kind of thing works well for me because if I don't want to do a particular task on a particular day, I kind of don't have to. So I like that I can just do it tomorrow without having to migrate the task and then feel guilty that I didn't get to it today, if that makes sense. So in this instance, the left page is going to be for the days of the week. I've separated off 7 sections that are each 5 spaces high, with a gap at the top and the bottom of 2 spaces just to make sure that things balance out really nicely. Each of those is for any specific events. So as a photographer, if I have a shoot on a particular day, if I have a deadline on a particular day, if I'm meeting with clients, I can pop it down in that space and know what's happening when. Big apologies as my camera's cut out. Even filming with 2 cameras, I managed to not get this part. I'm so sorry. All you missed was me ruling some lines and writing the days of the week. I promise it was nothing you haven't seen before. And right over the top of the watercolor, I'm sticking down some more of these washi stickers. They're very handy. A very good way to get some art into your journal without having to draw it yourself or make a particular effort. I really appreciate that. The hardest thing is finding the arrangements of them that you like. And it's time to flip through February. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you've had fun planning with me, maybe got some ideas from this video. If you do make anything that's inspired by this layout at all, please tag me. I would absolutely love to see. You can find me on Instagram at erinsmith.art. And since it is the year of the tiger, it's only appropriate that my own little tiger comes to visit right at the end of the video. This is my Mitsu. He does not have stripes, but he is lovely, and he wishes you a wonderful year of the tiger. Thank you again for joining me. Do stick around for more monthly Plan With Me videos, as well as some stationery reviews I've got coming up. I hope to see you again really soon. Bye!